Welcome, dear dreamer. Tonight, you are invited into a gentle space where psychology meets poetry and science becomes a lullaby. These are not sharp facts to keep you awake, but soft truths, carefully chosen to help your mind rest and your body drift. Each idea is like a candle glowing quietly in the dark, guiding you toward sleep, toward stillness, toward peace. If you find calm in these words, I invite you to like this video. It lets the world know that slow science, told with softness, has a place in the night. If you know someone who also struggles to rest, someone who longs for gentle understanding at the end of a busy day, consider sharing this with them. A small gift of quiet science before sleep. And as you listen, if a memory surfaces, or if one of these psychological facts touches you in a personal way, I would love to hear it in the comments. Your reflections may help another listener feel less alone, as if we are all part of the same nighttime conversation. For those who wish to keep wandering deeper into these calming explorations of the mind, I welcome you to subscribe. Here, every video is a soft bridge between wakefulness and dreams, a place where learning does not rush, but floats. So, find comfort in your bed. Let the day fade away, and together, let us begin. The most relaxing psychology facts to fall asleep to, dreamy science. You notice how thoughts drift in and out, like clouds slowly gliding across the sky. Psychology shows us that even when your mind feels busy, each thought has a rhythm and a softness that eventually settles. You learn how thoughts are lighter than they seem and how noticing them brings quiet. Close your eyes for a moment. Notice the way thoughts rise, almost uninvited, like bubbles drifting upward in a quiet pool. One appears, then another, then another. Some are sharp, carrying the echo of your day. Some are soft, like half-forgotten dreams. You may feel as though they arrive with weight, as though they press against you, demanding to be held. But the truth, gentle and simple, is that thoughts are lighter than they appear. Your brain is always weaving them, in silence, beneath awareness. Psychology calls this the default mode network, the gentle hum of your brain when you are at rest. Imagine it as a choir, not of words, but of murmurs. A choir that never stops singing, even when you are not listening. And yet, you do not need to grasp every sound. You can allow the music to play in the background, like a lullaby that needs no answer. You see, your thoughts are not stones. They are not heavy objects to be carried on your back. They are clouds. They drift across the sky of your mind, changing shape as they pass. One moment they seem dense and dark. The next they stretch thin, dissolving into nothing. Just as no cloud can stain the sky forever, no thought can stay with you permanently. Even the strongest thought eventually loosens its grip, softens its edges, and floats on. Psychologists studying the mind have discovered something comforting. Most thoughts are brief visitors. Studies show that the average thought lasts only a few seconds before it fades. Some return, circling again and again like a bird above a field. But even these repeating thoughts eventually tire. Like waves meeting the shore, they roll in, they linger, they roll away. To notice this rhythm is to begin to see the mind not as a battlefield, but as an ocean with its natural tides. When you sit quietly, perhaps in the stillness before sleep, the tide of thoughts can feel overwhelming. One thought rushes in about the past, something you said, something you wish you had done differently. Another thought tumbles forward from the future, something waiting tomorrow, an uncertainty, a worry. This is the way of the restless mind, wandering between what was and what may be. But psychology tells us something soothing. The act of noticing these thoughts already softens them. Awareness is not control, but it is presence. Light shining, a gentle lantern in a dark forest. Awareness shows you that the shapes you feared are only trees, only shadows. There is a practice, studied by psychologists and rooted in old traditions, called mindfulness. It is not about forcing the mind to be silent. It is not about chasing away every thought. Instead, it is about noticing. You sit, you breathe, and when a thought arises, you see it. You let it pass, the way you would watch a leaf float down a stream. The leaf drifts into view, floats gently, and disappears around the bend. Another leaf follows, and another. There is no need to reach into the water. You only watch. In time, you begin to see. The stream carries everything on its own. You need not hold a dot in this notice. Something tender happens. The weight begins to lift. A thought about tomorrow no longer feels like a burden. It feels like a passing ripple. A memory from the past loses its sharp edge. It becomes part of the landscape, fading like footprints on sand. You are still here, breathing, watching. The thoughts continue, but they do not pull you as they once did. Neuroscience offers an image. For this shift, imagine your brain as a vast forest, filled with countless paths. Each thought you have travels along one of these paths, lighting it up briefly. The more often you think a thought, the more well-worn the path becomes. This is why worries return. Again and again, the path is easy, familiar, carved deep into the ground. But when you pause, when you notice without judgment, you step gently off the path. You stand among the trees. You see that there are other trails, quieter ones, waiting for you. Awareness opens new directions. The forest, once narrow, becomes spacious again. Sometimes, though, a thought feels impossible to release. It clings like ivy, wrapping tightly, whispering its presence again and again. In psychology, this is known as rumination, the mind's tendency to circle, repeating old words, old fears. Rumination can feel heavy, like carrying a stone in your pocket all day. Yet even here, gentleness is the answer. The more you fight the stone, the heavier it feels. But when you sit with it, when you acknowledge its presence, it softens. The edges round, the stone warms in your hand. You begin to see it not as a threat, but as a reminder, a signpost that something in you wishes to be heard. Then release. Think of the sky again. Storm clouds gather, thick and dark. The storm arrives, heavy rain falls. For a time, the world feels covered in shadow. But you know, deep down, the storm will pass. The clouds will move, the sky will open. The same is true of your mind. Even the heaviest thought cannot stay forever. To remember this is to remember the softness of impermanence. Your body feels this truth as much as your mind does. Studies show that when you notice your thoughts with kindness, your heart slows, your breath deepens, your nervous system steadies. A calming hormone called oxytocin may even rise, offering you warmth, like a blanket pulled close. The body responds to the way you treat your mind. When you treat thoughts gently, your whole being softens into rest. As you lie here now, listening, notice how thoughts continue to come. They are not enemies, they are visitors. Some stay longer, some shorter, but all eventually leave. You are the host, not the servant. You may welcome them, nod to them, and watch them go. With every departure, space opens. Space for stillness, space for breath, space for the quiet music of sleep. Think of this. Your thoughts are not the whole of you. They are only ripples on the surface. Beneath the surface, the water of your mind is vast and deep, calm and unmoving. Psychology reminds us that consciousness is layered. Thoughts float on the top layer, like petals drifting on a pond. But deep below, there is a quiet presence, steady, unmoved by surface ripples. This deeper presence is always with you, even when your mind feels busy. To rest is to sink gently into this depth, to let the petals drift above while you float in calm below. You might ask, if thoughts are lighter than they feel, why do they sometimes seem so heavy? The answer lies in attention. Attention is like sunlight. Wherever it shines, things grow. When attention rests on a worry, the worry feels larger, brighter, heavier. When attention rests on calm, calm expands. This is not to say you should force yourself to turn away from difficult thoughts, but simply to remember that attention is a choice. You can choose where the light falls. And in that choice lies ease. Tonight, let your attention soften. Let it spread wide like dusk falling across a field. Thoughts will arise within this twilight, but they will feel smaller beneath the vastness of the sky. You will see them for what they are: passing clouds, drifting shapes, temporary and light. So you breathe. One breath in, slow and steady. One breath out, softer still. Between the breaths, space opens. Within this space, thoughts arrive, stay for a moment, and leave. You remain. The gentle weight of your thoughts is not a burden, but a reminder. You are alive, your mind is moving, your inner world is vast. Every thought is a ripple, but you are the water beneath, endless and still. And as you begin to see the patterns of these ripples, a quiet curiosity stirs in you. If thoughts are clouds drifting across your mind, then what guides their shapes? Why do they return as they do, repeating patterns like constellations reappearing in the night sky? What hidden rhythm draws them together, forming stories in the silence of your mind? Your mind is always seeking patterns, weaving connections between sounds, shapes, and memories. This quiet searching helps you make sense of the world without effort. Even in dreams, your brain continues its gentle puzzle solving, creating meaning. In the quiet of the night, there is something inside you that is always searching, always reaching for threads that connect. Even as you rest, your brain is quietly arranging the world into patterns, as if it cannot help but weave. This is one of the most soothing truths of psychology. Your mind loves order, not in a rigid or demanding way, but in a tender, almost playful way. Like a child arranging seashells along the shore, your brain places shapes and sounds and memories side by side, finding rhythm where there was once only noise. Think of the moment you recognize a familiar face in a crowd. At first, there are only countless moving shapes, colors, gestures, all blending into one restless sea. But then suddenly, one stands out. A friend, a loved one, someone known. That flash of recognition feels almost magical, but it is not magic. It is your brain's love for patterns at work. Neurons fire, pathways light up, and your mind, like a lighthouse, spots what belongs to you among the waves. This seeking of patterns begins early, long before you have words for it. Even infants, only days old, turn their heads toward repeated rhythms, their tiny brains already learning the melody of language before they can speak. They hear a sequence of sounds, and without instruction, they begin to expect what comes next. Psychology shows that this expectation is not taught. It is natural. To be human is to listen for rhythm, to look for shape, to discover meaning in repetition. Why does this happen? Because patterns are safe. When your brain finds a pattern, it feels at ease, as though the world has revealed a hidden kindness. Imagine walking into a dark room where everything feels uncertain and discovering a soft candlelight glowing in one corner. The candle is the pattern, steady and recognizable, guiding you through what seemed unfamiliar. This is why your mind calms when it hears music with rhythm, or why you find comfort in routines. Each repetition is like a lantern in the dark, reminding you that the world has a gentle order. Neuroscience explains this with a word that sounds technical but feels simple: prediction. Your brain is a prediction machine. Every moment it takes the scattered pieces of your experience, and tries to guess what will happen next. When the guess is right, a small wave of pleasure flows through you, like a soft pat on the shoulder from within. Dopamine, the brain's messenger of reward, is released in tiny drops, saying quietly, "Yes, you understood. Yes, you are safe." This happens when you finish a familiar melody in your head, when you solve a riddle, or when you see a pattern. Completed. You are rewarded, not with riches or praise, but with a gentle spark of satisfaction. Now imagine the stars above you on a clear night. At first, they are scattered points of light, far apart and endless. But your mind does something. Curious, it begins to draw lines. You see Orion, the hunter, stretching his bow. You see Cassiopeia's chair, the Big Dipper's spoon, the gentle arc of the Milky Way. Your ancestors did this too, long before you. Across cultures and time, people have drawn shapes in the sky, finding patterns among the stars. Why? Because your brain does not like randomness. It reaches always to connect the dots, to find story in the scatter. The constellations are not really there, yet your mind insists on seeing them, because to see patterns is to feel at home in the vastness. Dreams, too, are part of this love for pattern. At night, when you sleep, your brain does not simply rest. It continues weaving. It takes fragments of your day faces, sounds, moments, and stitches them together. Sometimes the patterns it creates are strange, surreal, almost nonsensical. Yet even then, your brain is searching for connection, turning chaos into something that resembles story. Psychologists call this process memory consolidation. The brain replays, reorganizes, and gently files away the day's experiences. But you, lying in the dream, experience it as a journey, a narrative, a pattern unfolding in the night. Think of the way your mind delights in symmetry. A butterfly's wings, a snowflake's crystal branches, the balance of two eyes looking back. At you, even nature seems to whisper to your brain, offering shapes that echo themselves, patterns that reassure you that the world is not broken. Studies show that people feel calm, even joy, when they see symmetry. Your eyes relax, your mind slows. The pattern is simple, but it speaks deeply. There is balance, there is harmony, there is safety here. Sometimes, though, your brain's love for patterns plays tricks on you. Have you ever seen a face in the clouds or on the surface of the moon? This is called pareidolia, the tendency to see meaning where there may be none. A swirl of mist becomes a smile. A cluster of windows becomes eyes staring back at you. Your brain would rather find a pattern, even a false one, than leave the world empty. It is a gentle trick of perception, reminding you just how eager your mind is to connect the dots. Yet, in this eagerness, there is beauty. To see faces in clouds is not foolish. It is playful. It is the brain's way of keeping you engaged with the world, turning randomness into relationships. Even silence becomes a pattern. Listen closely, and you will notice rhythm in your breath, in the beating of your heart, in the slow ticking of time itself. This love of pattern also explains why habits are soothing. Each time you follow the same gentle ritual, brushing your teeth, making tea, turning down the covers before sleep, your brain feels at ease. The repetition signals safety, nothing unexpected, nothing to fear. Psychologists call this cognitive ease, the sense of comfort that comes from the familiar. It is the same feeling that comes when you reread a favorite book or rewatch a beloved film. The story is known, yet it feels like a balm. Your brain is resting in the warmth of a pattern. Children know this instinctively. They ask to hear the same bedtime story again and again, not because they have forgotten the ending, but because the pattern soothes them. Each repeated word is a stepping stone across the river of sleep. They know what comes next, and in that knowing, they feel held. You, too, are still that child inside. Patterns cradle you, rocking you into rest. Even when life feels uncertain, your brain quietly searches for rhythm. If you face something unknown, your mind draws from memory, looking for a pattern it has seen before. This is why you compare new people to those you already know, why you seek routine when you feel overwhelmed. The pattern is not a cage, it is a comfort. It whispers, "You have seen this before. You can find your way again." And so, as you drift tonight, notice how patterns surround you. The steady rise and fall of your breath, the slow rhythm of your heartbeat, the repetition of thoughts that loop and circle, seeking resolution. Each is part of the same dance, the mind's endless weaving, its gentle puzzle solving, its desire to make sense of the world. As you lie here, you might wonder, if your brain is always searching for patterns, what does it do with the ones it keeps? How does it hold memories? And why do some stay bright while others fade? What happens to the lanterns of experience once they drift into the distance of time? Memories float like lanterns in the dark, glowing gently, sometimes near and sometimes far. Psychology reveals how memory softens with time, keeping the edges smooth so they don't hurt too much. Remembering becomes a tender act, a gentle drifting. Across the sea of your mind, close your eyes and imagine the stillness of night. In this vast, quiet dark, a small lantern begins to glow. Then another, and another. They drift slowly, each carrying a fragment of your life moments that belong to you and you alone. Some lanterns burn brightly, their details sharp and vivid. Others are faint, their light flickering as though time has thinned their flame. This is memory, not a fixed picture, but a floating dance, delicate and alive. Psychology has long studied this tender process, and what it reveals is both scientific and poetic. Your memories are not locked away like photographs in a drawer. They are living, breathing patterns of activity in your brain, shifting each time you recall them. To remember is not to press play on a recording. It is to recreate, to rebuild, to gather threads of light and weave them anew. That is why each memory feels both familiar and slightly different each time it arises. Memory is not a rigid archive. It is a slow dance. Think of your earliest memory. Perhaps it is blurry, like a dream at dawn. Perhaps it is a moment from childhood running through a garden, holding a parent's hand, or hearing laughter echo in a room. If you examine it closely, you might notice gaps, edges smoothed away. This is not failure. It is your brain's gentle kindness. Harsh details are softened. Unnecessary noise is set aside, leaving you with the glow rather than the sharpness. Memory edits not to deceive, but to protect. Neuroscience explains this with the hippocampus, a curved structure deep in your brain, shaped almost like a seahorse curled in rest. The hippocampus is a guide in this slow dance, helping you take experience and place it into the rhythm of long-term memory. But this guide does not copy events perfectly. Instead, it saves what matters most: the meaning, the feeling, the pattern, allowing a rest to fade like mist. This is why you may remember the warmth of a hug more than the exact words spoken, or the glow of sunlight on a birthday more than the number of candles on the cake. Your memories are selective lanterns, not endless archives. They float gently, reminding you of who you are without overwhelming you with every detail of who you were. And this is a mercy, for if you carried everything, every glance, every sound, every fleeting moment, you would be lost in the crowd of your own past. Forgetting is not a weakness. It is a gift. It makes room for the present, and it softens the edges of what might have been too sharp to carry. Consider the way a song can unlock a memory long thought forgotten. A single melody drifts into your ear, and suddenly you are transported years back. You feel the air of that moment. The emotions return. The scene rebuilds itself in your mind's theater. This is called associative memory. Your brain links experiences to sensory cues, sounds, smells, sights, and those cues become keys to hidden doors. Sometimes the doors open gently, bringing back warmth and comfort. Sometimes they open to bittersweet echoes. Yet always, they remind you of the living nature of memory, not gone, only waiting. Dreams, too, are part of this slow dance. When you sleep, your brain does more than rest. It reorganizes. Psychologists call this consolidation. The brain reviews the day's lanterns, choosing which ones to keep, which ones to let drift away. Sleep is like a quiet librarian, filing some memories neatly on the shelves while releasing others back into the night. This is why rest is so essential, not just for the body, but for the mind. Without sleep, memory falters. With sleep, memory finds its rhythm. Have you noticed how memories soften as the years pass? The pain of a difficult day often feels less heavy when remembered later. The joy of a bright moment may blur, but the glow remains. This is called fading affect, bias, a gentle tendency for negative memories to lose intensity faster than positive ones. It is as though your mind wishes to protect you, to let sorrow slip quietly away while holding joy a little closer. Not every memory obeys this rule, of course, but overall, the mind leans toward healing, toward balance, toward peace. Your memories also shape your sense of self. You are not only what you experience in this moment, you are the collection of lanterns glowing in your night sky. Some shine brighter, becoming constellations that guide you. Others flicker at the edges, faint but still part of your vast map. Together, they form the story you call me. Yet this story is not fixed. Each time you recall a memory, you reshape it slightly, coloring it with who you are now. In this way, memory is both past and present, a dance between what was and who you are becoming. Sometimes, though, the dance can feel heavy. A memory may return again and again, uninvited, carrying weight rather than light. This can happen with trauma, where certain memories refuse to fade, replaying with intensity. Psychology shows that such memories can imprint deeply, like scars, that remain visible long after the wound. Yet even here, healing is possible. With time, with support, with gentle care, the brain can reframe, soften, and restore balance. Even the heaviest lantern can be released to drift more lightly. Memory is not only personal, it is also collective. Families, communities, cultures all carry shared memories. A story told around a table, a tradition repeated each year, a photograph, passed from hand to hand. These collective lanterns remind us that memory is not only within you, but between you and others. Shared memory weaves connection, reminding you that you are part of something larger, a constellation rather than a single star. And so, as you drift in this chapter, notice how your own memories float. Some appear sharp and near, others faint and distant. They rise and fade, weaving the fabric of your life. You do not need to hold them tightly. They know their rhythm, their dance. Some will stay, some will drift away, and both are part of your becoming. Memory, then, is not about clinging. It is about allowing the lanterns to glow when they wish, to fade when they must, allowing the dance to unfold without forcing it into shape. In this way, memory becomes not a burden, but a companion, a gentle presence, guiding you, reminding you, but never binding you. And as you lie here now, perhaps you notice a question stirring. If memory is shaped by time, by feeling, by sleep, then how else does your body shape your mind? How do the rhythms of your breath, the simple act of inhaling and exhaling, calm the storms of thought and memory alike? With each breath, your nervous system shifts, balancing stress and ease. Psychology shows how simply noticing your breath can bring your body back to calm. Breathing becomes a lullaby, steady, familiar, endlessly patient. Listen closely now, not with your ears, but with your whole body. There is a rhythm that has been with you since the moment you were born, and it will stay with you until your final day. It is the rise and fall of your breath. Inhale, exhale, again and again. A cycle so constant, so patient, that you often forget it is there. And yet, when you pause and notice, you discover that this rhythm holds a quiet power, the power to calm your mind, to soothe your body, to carry you gently toward rest. Breathing is not just an exchange of air. It is a conversation between your body and your brain, a dialogue that continues without words. Each breath you take sends signals through your nervous system. With every inhale, your heart quickens slightly, as if preparing to meet the world. With every exhale, your heart softens, slowing down as if returning home. Psychology and neuroscience show that this simple rhythm, the balancing of inhale and exhale, guides the state of your entire being. There is a branch of your nervous system called the autonomic nervous system, a quiet caretaker that manages what you do not need to control: your heartbeat, your digestion, your temperature, and your breath. Within this system, there are two partners, the sympathetic and the parasympathetic. Think of them as two dancers in a slow waltz. The sympathetic readies you for action, your heartbeat rises, your body prepares, your senses sharpen. The parasympathetic soothes you into calm, your heartbeat steadies, your body relaxes, your mind rests. And your breath is the music guiding this dance, shifting the rhythm between energy and ease. Notice how, in times of stress, your breath changes. It grows shallow, quick, restless. Your chest tightens, your body braces. It is as though you are preparing to run, even when there is nowhere to go. This is the sympathetic system stepping forward. But when you slow your breath, when you inhale gently and exhale longer, the parasympathetic steps in. A wave of calm spreads. Your shoulders drop, your pulse softens, your mind begins to quiet. The dance returns to balance. Psychologists often teach a practice called paced breathing. It is simple, almost deceptively so. You breathe in slowly, hold briefly, and breathe out longer than you inhaled. For example, in for 4, out for 6. This longer exhale sends a message through the vagus nerve, a long wandering nerve that travels from your brain down through your body. The vagus nerve whispers to your heart, to your organs, to your systems. It is safe now. You can rest. The result is not imagined. It is measurable. Heart rate slows, blood pressure drops, stress hormones decrease. Your body shifts from alertness to ease. Imagine your breath as the tide of the ocean. Inhale, the wave rises to the shore. Exhale, the wave recedes back to the sea. The tide does not rush, it does not force. It simply continues, steady and eternal. When you breathe with awareness, you align yourself with this natural rhythm, as though the ocean itself were moving inside you. Each cycle becomes a lullaby, rocking you gently, reminding you that rest is not far away. Your breath also carries memory. Think of the times you sighed deeply after a long day, and how that sigh felt like release. Think of the laughter that left you breathless, the way it carried joy into your body. Think of the quiet moments when your breathing slowed as you drifted toward sleep. These are not just moments of air. They are patterns of feeling, woven into your nervous system. The body remembers, and the breath can return you to those states. Even ancient traditions knew this truth. Long before psychology, people practiced breathing as a form of medicine. In yoga, it is called pranayama, control of the life force through breath. In meditation, monks follow the breath like a lantern in the dark. One inhale, one exhale, until the mind grows still. Modern science confirms what they knew. that the breath is not only survival, but a bridge between body and mind. By noticing it, you discover a lever of calm that was always in your hands. Try it now as you lie here. Inhale slowly, feeling your chest and belly rise. Pause gently without strain. Exhale even more slowly, as though you are releasing all weight, all tension, into the quiet air around you. Do this again. Each cycle is slower than the one before. Each breath is a reminder that calm is not something you must chase. It is already here, waiting in the rhythm of your body. Breathing also shapes your mind's focus. Have you noticed how hard it is to think of many things at once while paying attention to your breath? The inhale, the exhale, the pause in between, they anchor you to the present. Psychology calls this anchoring a form of attentional control. By focusing on your breath, you gently pull your mind away from the clutter of thoughts. Worries about tomorrow fade. Memories of yesterday soften. There is only this moment, carried by the rise and fall of breath. This anchoring explains why breathing practices help with anxiety, with stress, even with sleep. When your mind is restless, filled with racing thoughts, your breath gives you something steady, something simple, something always near. You cannot always control the world outside, but you can always return to the rhythm within. And that is enough to shift the entire landscape of your being. Science has even shown that synchronized breathing with another person, sharing the same slow rhythm, creates a sense of connection. In studies, people who breathe together feel closer, more attuned, as though their bodies have found harmony. Perhaps this is why lullabies calm babies, not just through melody, but through the steady breath of the parent singing. Perhaps this is why sitting quietly with someone you love, breathing in unison without even noticing, feels so deeply safe. Breathing is a thread that ties us together. Your breath also mirrors your emotions. When you are joyful, it is light and playful. When you are sad, it may feel heavy and slow. When you are afraid, it may catch in your chest. Yet by turning this mirror around, by changing the breath, you can gently shift the emotion itself. This is called biofeedback, using the body to influence the mind. The two are not separate, but partners, moving in rhythm like two hands of the same dancer dot. And so, as you lie here tonight, your breath is more than air. It is your companion. It has been with you through every moment, even when you forgot it. It waits patiently, ready to soothe you the moment you return your attention to it. Inhale, and you feel the world arriving. Exhale, and you feel the world releasing. Inhale, and you are nourished. Exhale, and you are free. There is no rush. The breath will not leave you behind. It will match your pace, no matter how slow, no matter how tired. It is endlessly forgiving, endlessly patient. You need not master it, for it already knows what to do. All that is asked is that you notice, that you allow, that you let the lullaby carry you gently towards stillness. And as you rest in this rhythm, another thought begins to form. If the breath can calm the body and anchor the mind, then what of the thoughts that drift when the mind is free to wander? What happens when your attention loosens, when your mind drifts like a river, flowing into daydreams and imagination? Your thoughts meander like rivers, bending and flowing into unexpected places. Psychology explains how daydreams and wandering thoughts prepare you for creativity and rest. To let your mind wander is to give it freedom, to allow it to find secret pathways of peace. And in those quiet wanderings, your mind discovers patterns it could not see before. Your mind does not always walk in a straight line. It drifts, it sways, it circles back. At times, it moves so softly that you don't even notice where it has gone until it returns, carrying something small and delicate, like a shell found along a distant shore. This wandering is not a flaw. It is not your mind failing to stay still. It is your mind doing what it was made to do. explore. Psychologists have long studied this quiet drifting of thought. They call it mind wandering, and though it can feel like distraction, it is often closer to dreaming while awake. When your attention slips away from what is in front of you, a hidden network in your brain takes over. This network has a name that sounds almost poetic: the default mode network. It is a collection of brain regions that light up when you are not focused on the outside world, when you are instead tuned inward, letting thoughts rise and dissolve like mist. The default mode network is active when you daydream, when you imagine, when you remember the past or imagine the future. It weaves together stories about who you are, what has happened, and what may come next. In a way, it is your inner storyteller, sketching gentle outlines of your life's chapters, even as you drift between them. Picture your thoughts as a slow-moving river. When you are focused, the river seems to have walls, guiding the flow in one direction. But when your mind wanders, those walls fall away. The river branches, splitting into streams, trickling through forests, seeping into soil. It is no longer confined, and in that freedom, it discovers new paths. You might notice this most in quiet moments, staring out a window, washing dishes, lying in bed with your eyes half closed. Your thoughts begin to wander toward memories from childhood or plans for tomorrow, or even strange scenes that make no sense, but carry their own gentle music. Far from being useless, this wandering allows your brain to rest and to knit together hidden connections. Scientists have found that people spend almost half their waking lives in this wandering state. At first, that may sound like too much, as though half of life were lost to distraction. But in truth, this is not lost time. When your mind wanders, it is practicing creativity. It is rehearsing for challenges. It is making sense of what matters most to you. Imagine, for instance, that you are lying on a grassy hill. You are not thinking of anything in particular, simply watching clouds move above you. Slowly, without effort, your thoughts drift toward an old memory, perhaps a conversation you once had, or a sound you remember from childhood. That memory may connect to something happening in your life now, weaving two pieces of your story together in a way you would not have discovered if you had tried to force it. This is the secret gift of wandering. It creates links you didn't know you needed. The psychology of wandering also shows us something profound about rest. When your attention is tightly focused, your brain burns energy quickly. But when your thoughts scatter and meander, your brain shifts into a slower rhythm, conserving energy, letting your nervous system breathe. It is as though your mind gives itself permission to lean back, to release its grip, to float. And yet, wandering is not always peaceful. Sometimes, your mind drifts into worries, rehashing an old mistake or imagining something that could go wrong. Psychologists call this rumination, and it can feel heavy, like walking in circles around the same thought. But even here, there is a kind of meaning. Your brain returns to certain thoughts because it is trying to resolve them, to soften their edges, to understand them better. The wandering itself is part of that gentle repair. You can guide this wandering in small ways. By noticing it, you can soften the places where it hurts. By accepting it, you can allow your brain to do its quiet work without pushing it away. Think of it like sailing. You cannot control the winds, but you can hold the sail lightly, letting the breeze carry you without struggle. Research has shown that people often come up with their most creative ideas when their minds are wandering. Writers, artists, inventors all have described the strange experience of finding answers while they were not looking for them. A melody appears in the shower, a solution arising on a long walk, a story forming while waiting in line. Wandering thought is not emptiness. It is the soil where ideas quietly germinate. Your own wandering thoughts, the ones that visit you at night as you lie half asleep, are part of this same process. They may feel strange or even random, but They are stitching together fragments of your day, smoothing them into shapes your mind can hold. When you wake, you may not remember them clearly, but they leave a trace-like footprints in soft sand, pointing toward something just beyond sight. Notice how wandering feels different from focused thought. Focus is a sharp light, like a lamp. On a desk, wandering is softer, like moonlight spilling across a field. Focus seeks detail. Wandering embraces mystery. Focus builds. Wandering dissolves. Both are necessary, and both give rhythm to the mind. There is also something deeply human in this tendency to wander. Animals, too, rest and dream, but humans have a particular gift for drifting into imagined futures, for painting whole worlds inside their heads. This ability has allowed us to create, to plan, to tell stories. Without wandering thought, there would be no art, no invention, no dreaming of tomorrow. Your drifting mind carries the same ancient gift that once shaped poetry, music, and the gentle arcs of stories told around FIRELIG . And so, when your mind slips away, you do not need to pull it back too quickly. You can allow it to roam, to wander down small paths, to explore forgotten corners. Each wandering is a kind of breathing. For your thoughts, a way of letting them stretch, expand, and relax. Tonight, as you rest, notice when your thoughts drift. Do not chase them, and do not hold them still. Watch them the way you would watch waves approach a shore. Some waves are gentle, brushing against sand. Some waves are larger, carrying more weight. But all of them retreat eventually, leaving the shore smooth again. The wandering of your mind is not an interruption of rest. It is part of rest itself. It is your brain's way of rocking itself to sleep, of loosening the knots of the day. Each drifting thought is like a thread in a tapestry, weaving you quietly into the fabric of dreams. And as you allow your thoughts to wander now, you may notice how easily they lead you toward the quiet rhythm of sleep. For wandering thought and dreaming thought are close cousins, meeting in the soft hours of night, carrying you into landscapes both strange and comforting. You may ask yourself, if wandering thoughts can drift anywhere, where will they take you next? Repetition and familiarity soothe you. Your brain relaxes when things feel known, when sounds, faces, and places are recognized. Psychology shows why the familiar feels safe, like wrapping yourself in a blanket woven from memory and trust. The known world quiets the mind, giving space for rest, while the unknown waits gently at the edge of curiosity. You have felt it many times before. The quiet ease of walking into a room you know, of hearing a song that stirs a memory, of seeing the face of someone you love. Familiarity has a way of softening the edges of the world. It tells your body, your mind, your nervous system, here, you are safe. Here, nothing threatens you. Here, you can rest. Psychologists call this the mere exposure effect. Quite simply, the more you are exposed to something, an image, a melody, a face, the more you tend to like it. Not because it changes, but because it becomes known. And what is known feels safer than what is not. Your brain has evolved to trust the familiar, because for most of human history, the unknown could bring risk. A rustle in the bushes, a new sound, an unfamiliar pathol could mean danger. But the sight of your village, the sound of your mother's voice, the rhythm of footsteps you recognize, these were signals of safety. Even now, long after the dangers of the wild forest have faded for many, your brain carries this instinct. When you hear a familiar lullaby, it is not only your ears that relax, it is your heartbeat, your breathing, your muscles. Recognition tells your body that it can lower its guard. Think of the way children ask to hear the same story again and again. At first, you may wonder why repetition brings such joy. But to a child, the familiar story is not boring. It is a rhythm, a certainty, a safe path already known. Each telling confirms that the world can be trusted, that the story will end as it did before. That comfort is found in the repetition. In many ways, we do not outgrow this need. Adults, too, return to old songs, old movies, old places, not out of lack of curiosity, but out of the longing for safety and ease. Your brain is shaped to find comfort in patterns. Deep inside, there is a structure called the hippocampus, a keeper of memory. It works with other regions, like the amygdala, which tracks fear, and the prefrontal cortex, which makes decisions. Together, they create a map of what is safe and what is not. Each time you encounter something familiar, that map lights up with recognition, saying, "Yes, I know this. Yes, this belongs." The effect of familiarity is not only psychological, it is physical. When your brain recognizes something, it uses less energy to process it. Familiar things require less attention. This is why routines, though sometimes seen as dull, actually give your mind space to rest. You do not need to calculate each step of brushing your teeth or rehearse the path to your front door. Your brain has already woven these actions into habit, freeing up energy for other thoughts. Familiarity is efficiency, and efficiency brings calm. Imagine for a moment lying beneath a blanket that has covered you since childhood. Its fibers may be worn, its colors faded, yet it brings a comfort that no new blanket can match. This is the power of familiarity. It is not about perfection or novelty. It is about recognition. It is about the deep exhale that comes when you feel at home. Even the familiar rhythm of your own body comforts you. The steady beating of your heart, the soft expansion and release of your breath. These are patterns your nervous system trusts. This is why steady rhythms, like the ticking of a clock, the sway of a rocking chair, or the waves of the ocean, can lull you into calm. They echo the most familiar rhythm of all, the pulse you carried before birth, listening to your mother's heartbeat through the walls of the womb. Repetition is not only soothing, it is also a teacher. Your brain strengthens pathways each time something is repeated. Neurons fire together again and again until the connection becomes strong, like a well-worn path through a forest. This is why practice leads to skill, but it is also why repeated comfort leads to deeper safety. The more often you encounter something gentle, the more deeply your body believes in its gentleness. There is a poetry in this, that safety is not built in a single moment, but in the slow layering of repetition. Each familiar touch, each known place, each repeated word of kindness, these are stitches in the blanket of your inner calm. Over time, they form a fabric strong enough to hold you through storms. But familiarity is not always about objects or places. It is also about people. The faces you know best, family, friends, loved ones, become woven into your nervous system. Seeing them activates a sense of belonging, a reminder that you are not alone. Even in silence, the presence of someone familiar can lower your stress, slow your heart rate, ease your breathing. Loneliness, by contrast, is not only an emotion, but a physical strain, because without the familiar touch of others, your body remains more alert, more guarded. Think about the songs that carry you back to another time. Music is a particularly powerful form of familiarity because it combines rhythm, melody, and memory all at once. A song you have heard many times is processed more easily by your brain. It flows smoothly, like water down a well-carved channel. This is why familiar music can feel like an embrace, why it can soften grief or ease anxiety. It does not ask you to work, it simply invites you to remember. Yet familiarity does not mean stagnation. You do not need to live only in repetition. The brain also thrives on novelty, on learning, on discovering. But novelty is best received when it is cradled in familiarity. Think of a child venturing out to play, always glancing back to make sure a parent is near. The familiar presence makes the new exploration safe. In your own life too, new experiences are easier to embrace when you have a foundation of the known to return to. This balance between the familiar and the unknown is what keeps your mind both calm and alive. Too much sameness, and the world grows dull. Too much uncertainty, and the world grows overwhelming. But held together, they create harmony. Familiarity gives you the courage to explore. Exploration, in turn, deepens your appreciation for the familiar. Even your nightly rituals carry this rhythm. The familiar routine of preparing for bed, turning off lights, brushing your teeth, lying down signals to your brain that it is time for rest. This repetition calms the nervous system, preparing you to enter the deeper rhythms of sleep. Without these rituals, the mind might remain unsettled, searching for cues of safety. And so, the comfort of familiarity is not a small thing. It is the very structure on which peace rests. It is the reason lullabies are sung in every culture, why rituals shape every life, why memories matter so deeply. Familiarity tells you that you belong to something, that you are held in patterns larger than yourself. As you lie here now, notice the familiar, the steady rhythm of your breath, a gentle sound of your own heartbeat, perhaps the softness of a blanket, or the presence of a room you know well. Each of these tells your nervous system, you are safe, you are home. You can let go. And in that letting go, you open the door to sleep. For sleep itself is a familiar journey, one you have traveled every night of your life. Each night, the mind takes the same steps, moving through the same stages, descending into the same ocean of rest. Though dreams may bring novelty, the rhythm of sleep is one of the deepest familiar comforts you know. And as you feel that familiarity surround you now, you might wonder how it weaves into something larger, how the comfort of the known connects with the power of memory itself. Emotions whisper softly, carried in the rhythm of your heartbeat. They arrive not as storms, but as gentle signals, guiding your inner balance. A warmth, a heaviness, a spark, each feeling carries meaning. By listening, you learn to trust the language your body already knows. You notice it first as a stirring, a subtle weight in your chest, or a gentle brightness behind your eyes. Emotions rarely shout when they arrive. They slip in quietly, shaping the world around you with their invisible brush. They color the tone of your thoughts, shift the way you breathe, and soften or sharpen the way you see what is before you. Like a secret language, emotions are always speaking, even when you are not paying attention. When you feel joy, your body sings with energy. Your pulse grows steady and smooth, as if keeping time with laughter. The corners of your mouth curve upward without your asking, as though your muscles already know what happiness means. Joy releases chemicals, dopamine, serotonin, oxytocin, each one a spark, warming your body from the inside. In these moments, your whole system is aligned toward connection, openness, and trust. Your body says, you are safe here. Sadness, in contrast, feels slower, heavier, like moving through water. Your shoulders round inward. Breathing grows shallow. Yet sadness, too, carries wisdom. It urges you to pause, to conserve energy, to rest. It signals to others that you need comfort, that you are carrying something tender. In the science of psychology, sadness is not a weakness, but an adaptive signal, a way of asking silently for help without needing words. Fear is sharper, a quick tightening in your chest. Your heart beats faster, preparing you to move, to act. This is your body's ancient system of protection, a survival gift that has been refined for millions of years. Fear heightens your senses, pulling you into the present moment. Yet it does not always mean danger. Sometimes fear arrives simply as anticipation, as the trembling edge of possibility before something new. And then there is anger, hot and restless, pushing you to act. Your jaw tightens, blood rushes, your voice grows, louder without planning. For many, anger feels dangerous, something to be suppressed. But psychology shows anger as a messenger of boundaries, a way of saying, something here is not fair, not safe, not right. Anger, when understood, becomes not destructive but clarifying. Each emotion has its place, its signal, its reason for being. They are not intruders in your body. They are messages carefully designed by evolution, guiding you toward balance and survival. Just as hunger tells you when to eat and fatigue tells you when to rest, emotions tell you how to respond. To the shifting world, think of them as colors in a painting. None is wrong, none is unnecessary. Without sadness, you would not appreciate joy. Without fear, you would not know safety. Without anger, you would not recognize justice. And without surprise, that quick widening of the eyes and intake of breath, life would lose much of its wonder. The secret language of emotions is spoken in many dialects. Sometimes it speaks through the body, a quickened pulse, a sinking belly, warmth flooding your cheeks. Sometimes it speaks through thought, a memory, rising, a sudden image appearing uninvited. And sometimes it speaks through behavior, the way you lean closer when you trust, the way you turn away when you don't. You may not always understand the words, but your body does. Your nervous system listens constantly, interpreting the silent signals. Scientists call this interoception, the ability to sense the internal state of your body. When you notice your breath quickening before you feel anxious, or the clench of your stomach before you realize you are worried, you are reading the language of interoception. It is your first alphabet of emotions. Children learn this language slowly, often through the presence of caregivers. A baby cries, and a parent responds, teaching the child that sadness brings comfort. A toddler laughs, and someone laughs back, showing the child that joy creates connection. In these exchanges, the dictionary of feelings begins to form, but the learning never stops. Even as an adult, you are still adding new words, new translations, refining how you understand what your body is trying to say. There are cultures where emotions are named differently, shaping the way people experience them. In Japan, there is ame, the sweet feeling of depending on another with trust. In Portuguese, there is saudade, a deep longing for something that may never return. Each language gives form to subtle emotional states, reminding you that emotions are not only biology, but also culture, woven into the fabric of how you perceive life. Psychology shows that naming an emotion can change its power. When you say, "I feel anxious," the amygdala, the brain's alarm center, quiets. The prefrontal cortex, the thinking part of your brain, steps in, offering calm. This simple act, called affect labeling, is like translating the body's whispers into words the mind can understand. It is as if you are saying to yourself, "I hear you. I know what you mean." To listen to emotions without judgment is a practice of kindness. Too often, you may push feelings aside, calling them inconvenient or irrational. But every emotion, even the uncomfortable ones, carries a truth. Anxiety may reveal what matters deeply to you. Grief may remind you of the love still alive in your heart. Even shame, heavy and silent, may point you toward the parts of yourself longing for acceptance. Imagine your emotions as guests arriving at your door. Some are familiar friends, others are strangers you'd rather avoid. Yet each brings a gift, something meant for you to notice. Joy brings connection. Sadness brings reflection. Anger brings clarity. Fear brings caution. Even the quieter ones, awe, gratitude, serenity, bring perspective, reminding you of your place in something larger. The nervous system weaves emotions into your body with breathtaking precision. When you feel stress, your adrenal glands release cortisol, sharpening your attention. When you feel love, oxytocin softens your muscles, lowers your blood pressure, and opens you toward trust. These are not abstract sensations, but carefully orchestrated biological responses, each tuned to your survival and your flourishing. And yet, emotions are not fixed. They rise and fall like tides. No feeling lasts forever. This is one of their most merciful qualities. Anger burns, then fades. Grief aches, then softens. Even joy, as bright as it feels, eventually quiets into calm. The impermanence of emotions is what makes them bearable, and also what makes them precious. In moments of stillness, you can watch emotions move like clouds across the sky of your mind. You see them forming, shifting, dissolving. Meditation traditions have long taught this. Skill not to control emotions, but to notice them. To recognize that you are not the storm, but the sky in which the storm passes. Neuroscience confirms what contemplative practices have known for centuries. Observing emotions changes their impact. When you step back, even slightly, your brain's networks shift. The reactive circuits quiet, and the reflective circuits awaken. You begin to see emotions not as commands, but as information. Not as threats, but as guides. Sometimes, emotions come mixed together, like colors blending into unexpected shades. You may feel joy and sadness at the same time, what psychologists call bittersweetness. You may feel fear and excitement together, a trembling that can be both terrifying and thrilling. These blended emotions remind you that the language of feelings is not simple, but complex, layered, as intricate as music with many harmonies. Even dreams carry this language. In sleep, your brain continues to weave emotions into stories, processing what you could not resolve in the day. Nightmares may signal unresolved fear. Peaceful dreams may signal integration, a settling of the heart. In this way, emotions follow you into the quiet hours, ensuring that nothing important goes unheard. To walk through life is to be fluent in this secret language, even if you do not always realize it. Every decision, every memory, every connection is infused with feeling. Without emotions, choices lose meaning. They are not distractions from thought. They are the very compass of thought. Neuroscience shows that people who lose emotional centers in the brain cannot make decisions, even about the simplest things, because they no longer feel what matters. So you listen. You place a hand on your chest and notice its rhythm. You feel the warmth of gratitude, the edge of worry, the sweetness of love. You allow each to arrive, to speak, to teach. You begin to trust that emotions are not storms to survive, but waves to ride, each carrying you toward a deeper understanding of yourself and the world. And as you listen more closely, you begin to wonder, if emotions are this rich, this layered, what other signals might your body be sending? What other hidden languages wait quietly inside you, waiting to be heard? Stories cradle your mind, carrying you away from the sharpness of the present. Psychology shows that your brain lights up when it hears a story, as if living inside the tale. Every bedtime story becomes a soft bridge between wakefulness and dreams. Stories do not just entertain, they soothe, they guide, they hold you gently. You drift with them, finding calm in their ancient rhythm. You lie back, allowing your breath to slow, and almost without effort, a story begins to form in your mind. It may be faint at first, only a shadow of an image, the whisper of a character, a fragment of a memory, but soon it grows into something fuller. This is the quiet power of stories. They do not rush toward you. They wait, patient and timeless, until you are ready to step inside them. Stories have always been part of you. Long before written words, before books and glowing screens, human beings sat around fires and spoke to one another. The night was vast and uncertain, but the warmth of a shared story made the darkness feel less intimidating. In those flickering circles of firelight, people passed along not only entertainment, but also wisdom, caution, and comfort. A tale was a way of saying, you are not alone in what you feel. Others have walked here before you. When you listen to a story, your brain does something remarkable. Modern neuroscience reveals that the areas of your brain that would be active if you were living the experience come alive simply by hearing about it. If someone tells you about climbing a mountain, your motor cortex, the part that controls movement, shows activity as if your body were attempting the climb. If you hear of a sweet taste, your gustatory system, the part that processes flavor, lights up as though sugar touched your tongue. Stories, in this way, are simulators. They allow you to live countless lives, feel countless feelings without leaving the quiet comfort of your room. This explains why, when a story draws you in, time seems to dissolve. You forget where you are. The edges of the present soften, and you exist in a place both here and elsewhere. Psychologists call this transportation, and it is a kind of gentle magic your mind performs effortlessly. You step through a door made of words, and suddenly you are walking in someone else's footsteps. Why does this matter for rest? Because stories give your wandering thoughts a gentle rhythm to follow. Instead of circling endlessly around the worries of the day, your mind flows along the current of a tale. It is a current that knows where it is going, even if you do not. There is a beginning, a middle, and an end. There are rises and falls, pauses and resolutions. This structure is deeply soothing because the brain craves patterns and stories. Are patterns wrapped in emotion? Think of the way a lullaby works. The words are simple, the melody repetitive, but together they create comfort. Stories are like lullabies for the mind. They give shape to what might otherwise feel shapeless. They offer the sense that there is meaning, that the scattered pieces of experience can fit together in a way that makes sense. And in that recognition, you feel safe enough to let go. Even your earliest memories are wrapped in story. As a child, you might have listened to tales told by parents or teachers, voices that wove images as carefully as threads in a tapestry. The rhythm of those voices mattered as much as the words themselves. Psychology shows that the brain responds not only to meaning, but also to cadence, to tone, to the rise and fall of sound. This is why a bedtime story can soothe you, even if you no longer remember the details of the plot. It is not just information. It is music. It is ritual. It is care. Consider how stories organize emotion. A sad tale allows you to feel grief in a safe container. A hopeful one allows you to sense joy before it arrives in your own life. This is not accidental. Stories serve as rehearsals. By feeling emotions in the gentle space of a narrative, your brain learns how to hold them when they come unannounced in reality. You might cry at a film or smile at a novel, and afterward you feel lighter, not heavier. This is catharsis, and it is a gift of storytelling that your body participates too. When you hear a tense part of a story, your pulse may quicken slightly. When resolution arrives, your nervous system settles. This is a kind of training for balance, a practice of moving between tension and ease. Over time, this movement teaches your body that difficult feelings can resolve, that endings can be gentle. The most remarkable thing is that your brain remembers stories more vividly than plain facts. If someone lists numbers or states a dry truth, you may forget it quickly. But if that same information is wrapped inside a narrative, it sticks. This is because stories link memory to emotion, and emotion acts like glue. Think of how history was passed down before writing through epics, myths, legends. They survived not because people had perfect memories, but because the story made memories easier to carry at night. When your mind drifts toward dreams, stories serve as a bridge. They take the conscious patterns of waking thought and ease them into the more fluid, surreal logic of sleep. A bedtime story does not need to finish. In fact, some of the most restful stories are those that trail off, dissolving into silence, leaving your imagination to continue the thread. Your brain is ready for this. During sleep, it becomes its own storyteller, weaving fragments of memory, sensation, and imagination into the fabric of dreams. Perhaps this is why you find such calm in familiar tales. A story you have heard before is like a well-worn path. You know the turns, the resting places, the ending that waits at the end. There is safety in repetition, comfort in knowing what comes next. Psychology explains this as predictability soothing. The nervous system. When there are no surprises, no sudden alarms, you are free to relax fully. And yet, even in the most familiar stories, there is always room for discovery. Each telling feels slightly different because you are different each time you listen. Your perspective shifts with your experiences. A character who once seemed simple may now seem complex. A line that once passed unnoticed may suddenly shine with meaning. This is how stories grow with you, how they remain alive. Why do we love stories so much? Because they mirror us. Every tale, no matter how fantastical, contains pieces of human truth. The struggles of an ancient hero echo your own. Small daily battles. The triumphs of mythical journeys echo the quiet victories you win in your life. Stories remind you that your feelings are not isolated, that you are part of something larger, a great river of human experience that flows through time in the gentle quiet of night. Stories also help your brain settle into rest by activating imagination without urgency. Unlike planning tomorrow or revisiting today's worries, imagining a tale does not demand action. You can watch it unfold the way you might watch clouds drifting across the sky. Your body interprets this as safety, as spaciousness. In this state, sleep arrives more naturally, like a tide coming to shore. As you reflect on this, notice how stories are not only given to you by others, but also created by you. Every dream, every wandering daydream, every memory shaped into narrative is a story. You tell yourself stories about who you are, what you can do, where you have been. These inner narratives shape your emotions, your choices, your sense of meaning. When you listen gently to your own stories, you begin to see them as flexible. They can shift, they can soften, they can open into new possibilities. And perhaps that is the deepest comfort of all, that stories are never final. Even when one ends, another can begin. The book may close, but another waits to be opened. This mirrors life itself, with its cycles, its transitions, its constant flow of beginnings and endings. To love stories is to love the unfolding of existence, with all its chapters, pauses, and turns. So tonight, as you drift, let yourself be held by the story you are in now. Notice how your mind embraces images, how your body relaxes with rhythm, how your emotions find quiet recognition in the arcs of the tale. You are part of something ancient, something shared across all humanity, something as enduring as the stars. At once watched over fireside gatherings. You are inside a story, and the story is inside you. And as this chapter gently closes, you may begin to wonder about the quiet frontier waiting just beyond stories, the mysterious landscapes of dreams, where narrative takes new shapes and the mind drifts even further. Sleep itself is a kind of medicine, carefully repairing and restoring you. Psychology and neuroscience together explain how your mind organizes thoughts while your body rests. As you drift, you enter the quiet workshop of dreams and healing. Every night, your cells and memories are renewed, gently carried into balance once more. There comes a moment, often unnoticed, when wakefulness begins to soften. Your thoughts slow down, stretching like long shadows in evening light. Your eyes may grow heavy, your breathing steadier, and your body starts its quiet surrender. In this surrender, something remarkable begins. Sleep does not come simply to pause your day. It arrives as an active, healing presence, reshaping the fabric of your mind and body. It is not an interruption of life. It is one of life's deepest rhythms. You may think of sleep as the blank space between days, but science shows it is anything but empty. While you rest, your brain works with great dedication, pruning, cleaning, repairing, and weaving. Imagine a night gardener tending to a luminous garden, trimming overgrown branches, watering thirsty roots, and planting new seeds. That gardener is your sleeping brain, shaping your inner landscape so that you may wake renewed as you drift into sleep. The first cycles carry you into non-REM stages, where brain waves slow, becoming large and rhythmic, like the rise and fall of ocean tides. In these stages, your body takes the lead. Muscles repair themselves, tissues grow, and immune defenses strengthen. It is here that your cells receive what they cannot gather during the rush of daytime and space to mend. Your heartbeat slows, your blood pressure drops, and the stress of waking life loosens its grip. Your body finds balance in the gentle embrace of this deep, quiet state. The science of sleep reveals something wondrous. While you lie still, your brain is actively cleansing itself. In the silence of night, the brain opens pathways called the lymphatic system, flushing away waste proteins that build during wakefulness. It is as though clear streams wash through your neurons, carrying out toxins, leaving behind freshness. Without this cleansing, your mind would feel heavy, fogged, unable to think clearly. Each night, your brain restores its clarity, preparing you for tomorrow. But the healing of sleep is not only physical, it is deeply psychological. As you drift between stages, your mind begins to sort through the fragments of the day. The hippocampus, a small seahorse-shaped structure, plays a central role. It holds memories of what you learned, saw, and felt before gently passing them to the neocortex, where long-term storage resides. Like a librarian carefully shelving books, sleep organizes your experiences, deciding what to keep and what to let go. This is why a good night of rest often brings insight, why answers that feel hidden during the day can surface with surprising clarity in the morning. Have you ever noticed how, after sleep, a problem seems lighter, less tangled? This is not a chance. Studies show that during REM sleep, the stage of vivid dreaming, the brain makes unusual connections, linking distant ideas and sparking creativity. Painters, musicians, scientists, and inventors throughout history have drawn inspiration from dreams. Paul McCartney dreamed of a melody that became yesterday. Kekule saw the ring structure of benzene in a dream. Your dreaming mind is an artist, unbound by logic, free to play and create. It does not solve with straight lines. It weaves with curves, colors, and symbols. Dreams are also gentle healers of emotion. In REM sleep, the amygdala, the brain's center for fear and strong feelings, remains active, while stress chemicals like norepinephrine quiet down. This unique state allows you to re-experience emotional events in a safe, softened way, as if watching them through a distant window. Painful memories are revisited, but their sharp edges are dulled. Your dreams are not random. They are a theater of healing, replaying life's dramas in a slower, gentler light. The body, too, is transformed during sleep. Growth hormone is released in deep stages, repairing tissues, helping bones strengthen, and supporting healthy metabolism. Muscles that strain during the day recover. Even your skin renews itself more actively at night, producing collagen and repairing small damage. In many ways, sleep is your body's most faithful physician, one that visits every night without cost, without demand, asking only for your surrender. Yet in the modern world, surrendering to sleep can feel difficult. Artificial light, glowing screens, restless schedules all stretch the hours of wakefulness, and crowd into the sacred time of night. Science tells us that sleep deprivation unsettles the very balance sleep is meant to restore. Without enough rest, your mood falters, your memory stumbles, and your body grows more vulnerable. Chronic lack of sleep raises the risk of heart disease, diabetes, and weakened immunity. It is as though the night gardener was kept from the garden, leaving weeds to grow unchecked. And yet, when you choose to honor sleep, you gift yourself profound healing. Simple rituals can prepare you, dimming the lights, setting aside the phone, creating an environment that whispers rest rather than shouts of stimulation. Breathing slowly, reading gentle words, listening to calm sounds, all signal to the nervous system that it is safe to let go. These rituals are like opening a door for sleep's arrival, welcoming the healer inside. Psychology reminds us that sleep also shapes identity. The stories your mind rehearses in dreams, the way your emotions are soothed and reorganized, all contribute to who you feel yourself to be. When you dream of a loved one, when you process a lingering fear, when you imagine walking through places, never seeing your brain is weaving the narrative of your life, night after night. In this way, sleep is both healing and storytelling, mending the past while sketching the outlines of future possibility. Children instinctively know the magic of sleep. Their bodies crave it, and in their long hours of slumber, growth is accelerated. Learning is cemented, and play is transformed into knowledge. For adults, too, the principle remains. What you live in the day becomes what you integrate in the night. A laugh with a friend, a word of kindness, a challenge faced, all these are carried into sleep and return to you polished, softened, or strengthened. Consider, for a moment, how universal this rhythm is. Across the world, every culture, every being surrenders to the cycle of rest. Animals burrow, nest, curl, or drift, finding safety in sleep. Trees themselves hold a kind of slumber, closing their stomata at night, slowing their growth until dawn returns. The earth spins beneath you, and with its rotation, all life moves between activity and rest. You are part of this rhythm, inseparable from it, carried within the same tide as every living thing. And so, each night, when you close your eyes, you step into the oldest medicine known to nature. Sleep balances your mind, restores your body, and carries your spirit toward peace. You may not always remember your dreams. You may not always notice the repairs, but deep within, the healing happens. Like rivers flowing underground, unseen but essential, the quiet work of sleep sustains you. When morning comes, you rise not as the same person who lays down, but as someone subtly renewed. Cells have mended, memories have been shaped, emotions softened. This renewal is gentle, not loud, but it is real. Sleep has given you back to yourself, whole and restored. And so you begin to see, sleep is not passive nor wasted. It is life's hidden ally, a silent medicine, a nightly return to balance. Each breath, each dream, each deep wave of brain activity works in harmony to make you whole. As you reflect on this, you may sense a question opening within you. If sleep is such a healer, what other hidden processes quietly guide your inner world? What other unseen forces, like tides within the body, shape the way you feel, remember, and become? At the center of it all is you, your quiet self, your hidden awareness. Psychology shows that your sense of self is always shifting, soft and fluid, like water in motion. Every thought, every memory, every feeling adds to the tapestry of who you are. To rest is to remember that you are both vast and gentle, both the dreamer and the dream. When you pause for a moment and close your eyes, you might notice the soft hum of existence within you. It is not a sound, not exactly, but more like an echo, the awareness that you are here, alive, breathing. This awareness, this subtle recognition of yourself, is something you carry with you in every moment. And yet, when you look for it, it slips away like water running through your fingers. The self feels both solid and mysterious, both deeply personal and strangely universal. Psychologists and philosophers have long asked the question, what is the self? Is it the sum of your memories? Is it your personality, the way you laugh? Or the choices you make? Or is it something quieter, more hidden, a kind of observer who watches as your life unfolds? Your brain, that intricate landscape of billions of neurons, plays a central role in weaving the story of you. Neuroscience shows that your sense of self is not a single thing but a pattern, a collaboration between many regions of the brain. Some parts remember your past, others imagine your future. Still others allow you to feel your body in space, to know that your hands are yours, that your footsteps belong to you. The self emerges from this orchestra of activity, like a melody, rising from many instruments playing together. And yet, yourself is never fixed. It shifts and reshapes itself constantly. When you wake in the morning, you feel different from the version of yourself that drifts off to sleep at night. When you are calm, yourself feels steady, grounded. When you are overwhelmed, yourself feels scattered, fragile. Like a river, it bends and changes, reflecting the light of the moment. There is comfort in this fluidity. It means you are never trapped. You are never only one version of yourself. Just as water can freeze into ice or flow into streams, you, too, can soften, change, and move with life. Think of the child you once were. Perhaps you remember moments of laughter, or the first time you felt afraid, or the way the world seemed impossibly large. That child is still part of you, living quietly in memory, shaping the way you respond to life today. And yet, you are also more than that child. You have grown, layered yourself with experiences, and carried forward only what remained essential. Yourself is like a book that keeps writing itself, page by page, never complete, never closed. Science tells us that memory plays a key role in this unfolding identity. When you remember, your brain does not simply retrieve a stored picture. It rebuilds it, reconstructs it, sometimes slightly different from before. Each memory is a living thing, reshaped by the present moment. And as memories shift, so too does your sense of who you are. This is why self is not a rigid sculpture, but a moving dance dot, yet the self is not only memory. It is also awareness now. When you notice your breath, when you hear the sound of your heartbeat in the quiet, you are meeting yourself in the present moment. This awareness feels different from memory or imagination. It is not about who you were, nor about who you might become. It is the simple truth of existing here, now. Some call this consciousness. Others call it presence. Whatever the name, it feels like the soft center of the self, a light that is always glowing, even when the story around it changes. Psychology reveals something gentle about this awareness. It does not judge. The voice of judgment, the inner critic, is part of your thinking mind. But awareness itself, the quiet witness, only notices. It watches thoughts rise and fall, feelings swell and fade, without clinging, without pushing away. When you rest in this kind of noticing, you discover a deeper peace, a softness that does not depend on what happens around you. And yet, yourself is not only private, it is also shaped in the space between you and others. From the very beginning, as an infant, yourself formed in response to faces, voices, and touches. Your earliest sense of who you were came from how others mirrored you. Smiles, soothing, sounds, gestures of care. Even now, much of yourself is woven from connection. The warmth you feel when someone remembers your name, the comfort of being recognized, the gentle belonging in friendship, these are not separate from the self. They are threads in the fabric of identity. This is why loneliness can feel so sharp. It is not only the absence of others, but also a trembling of the self, a moment when the fabric feels thin. In contrast, when you are with those who care for you, your self feels fuller, steadier, as if it rests inside a nest of safety. Psychology calls this co-regulation, the way nervous systems calm one another. But you know it in simpler ways. Hug that slows your heartbeat, a kind word that softens your breath. The self is also a story. Every day, without realizing it, you tell yourself who you are. You gather experiences and thread them into a narrative. I am someone who loves, who tries, who has struggled, who has grown. This story helps you make sense of life. It gives you continuity, a sense of being one person moving through time. But, like all stories, it is selective. You choose which details to emphasize, which chapters to linger on, which to leave in the shadows. In this way, yourself is both truth and art, both fact and imagination. Sometimes the story grows heavy. You may cling to an identity that no longer fits. I am someone who always fails. Or I am someone who must be strong, no matter what. These stories can press against you, like walls that keep you from moving. But remember, the self is not fixed. Stories can be rewritten. You can soften old narratives, open new chapters, let go of the voices that no longer serve you. Your brain itself has a gift for change, a quality called neuroplasticity. With gentle repetition, with care, new pathways form, new patterns of self emerge. At night, when you sleep, your self continues. It's quiet work. Dreams weave fragments of memory and feeling into strange, poetic images. In these dreamscapes, the self experiments, heals, reorganizes. Neuroscientists believe that dreaming helps integrate your experiences, preparing your mind to meet tomorrow. In dreams, you may find yourself in places you have never been, meeting people you have never met. Yet at the center, there is always a sense of you, even if that self looks or feels different. Dreams remind you that the self is not limited to a single shape. It is vast, fluid, capable of endless forms. Philosophy adds another layer to this: mystery. Some traditions suggest that the self is like the sky, open, spacious, unchanging, while thoughts and emotions pass like clouds. Others say the self is an illusion, a construction of the brain, useful but not ultimately real. Still others believe the self is both real in experience, yet boundless beyond definition. You do not need to choose one answer. You can simply sit with the mystery, letting it soften around you like twilight dot. As you listen now, you might notice the gentle paradox. You are both the story and the silence beneath the story. You are both the voice and the listening. You are both the dreamer and the dream. This is the tender mystery of being human, that you can never fully hold yourself, and yet you are never apart from it. Rest here, in this awareness. Feel how the self expands and softens when you allow it to be spacious. Feel how it quiets when you rest in presence. You do not need to solve the riddle. You only need to breathe it, to live it, to let it be gentle. And as you rest, another question begins to arise. If the self is both fluid and vast, then what happens when it meets the endless unknown, the wide horizon of mystery that stretches beyond even identity? And now, dear dreamer, our gentle journey comes to a close. You have walked through the quiet pathways of psychology, where each fact has not only explained the mind, but also cradled it. The science you've heard tonight was never meant to stir you awake, but to help you rest more deeply, as if the knowledge itself became a soft pillow beneath your thoughts. If these moments of calm have eased you tonight, I invite you once again to like this video. A single touch of support helps this small sanctuary of dreamy science grow. If you know someone who carries restlessness with them, a friend, a loved one, perhaps even someone far away, you may choose to share this with them. It could be the quiet gift they need at the end of their day. I would also love to hear from you in the comments. Perhaps one idea tonight resonated, or perhaps a memory arose while you listened. Your reflections may ripple outward, comforting another listener who finds them. And if you wish to keep returning to this gentle space, to explore more calming psychology and soothing science, I warmly welcome you to subscribe. Here, every story is a bridge between wakefulness and dreams. For now, close your eyes, feel the weight of the day dissolve, and let sleep carry you onward into its soft and endless mystery. Good night, dear dreamer.